veterans and have come out and gone to work in a franchise business as the owner of the business, building not just one unit, but multiple units. And these are when you talk to folks like you, they will say it's the discipline of what I learned that mattered to me and carried forward. So I'm assuming you continue these practices today, that you like the discipline.
I do. It's the not quitting that's the most important thing, and understanding that a little bit of failure is okay, but quitting's not. So in the long term, you keep getting up every day, you keep showing up, you say what you're going to do, and then you do it. That builds trust. You're going to trust yourself more, and you will be successful if you just don't quit and do that.
Welcome to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast, where we talk about all things franchising. Now, here's your host, Dr. John P. Hayes.
My guest today, Victor Ulibarri, and he is a franchisee, but also veteran of the Air Force. I always like to talk to service people because they're a great fit for franchising, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Victor, welcome to my program, to my podcast. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, John. I appreciate it.
Sure. So let's find out. You didn't grow up thinking franchising. I'm going to be a franchisee someday. You might have grown up thinking Air Force because you had a great career. You received the Air Force Achievement Medal during your time of service. When did franchising enter your mind?
I got the idea of franchising when I attended a Boots to Business class when I was serving. When it looked like I was going to get out of the military, I went to a business training class because I always had the entrepreneurial spirit, and I just wanted to explore that a little bit. As a civilian, I had kind of a side hustle while I was serving. So my wife and I were actually selling tamales out of the back of her car while we were stationed in Germany. We just found that it was really hard to find good Mexican food overseas, and we wanted to make some tamales. Everyone wanted to eat them, so we just started selling them for $20 a dozen. And my wife was having a tough time finding employment in Germany, so that was a way for her to make some money. She was able to pay for that car and pay for her schooling over there.
So franchising doesn't always satisfy the entrepreneurial drive because franchising is very disciplined. You have to follow someone else's plan, which is one of the criticisms of franchising. Why would I want to follow someone else's dream? Which, by the way, is a stupid comment. There are lots of reasons why you would want to do that, particularly if you're not entrepreneurial enough or you're not enough of a risk taker. But where did you figure out, okay, well, franchising is a little bit different than doing something entrepreneurially?
So I wasn't really big into franchising as a whole, but I was introduced to a few businesses that were kind of handpicked for me by a friend that I met when I was getting out of the military. He kind of showed me around different franchises and how it could work. And one of the franchises that I was introduced to was Ace Handyman Services, which has the Ace hardware brand that I love and everybody seems to respect. So it was kind of an exceptional opportunity. Before that, I was not really attracted to franchising. It was just this particular franchisor got my attention.
Was your friend a franchise broker?
He was a franchisee and was kind of a liaison for veterans that are looking for business opportunities. I can give you his info as well.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because did you take advantage of VetFran? Was that available to you?
Yeah, I did.
So, people who don't know, if you are honorably discharged from any of the armed services in the United States, you qualify for VetFran. And there is something like, I'm not sure, maybe 600 brands or more today. And Ace Handyman must have been one. Ace Hardware, I'm pretty sure, is one that provides VetFran discounts, benefits, and advantages to people who come out of the service and want to invest in a franchise. So you did that. What kind of advantages did you get from VetFran?
The big one that you mentioned, the discount off of the initial franchise fee, was great. I also found a bank that was willing to waive a few fees, a few $100 here and there.
Thousands of veterans have taken advantage of VetFran. And I always like to put in a plug because I'm very familiar with VetFran. It got its name through the work of my agency at the time. That was a long time ago. I sold my agency in 1995. But at the time of the first Gulf War, Don Dwyer Sr., founder of the Dwyer Group, now known as Neighborly, which is the largest conglomerate of franchised home service businesses in the world. Don didn't live to see that happen, but his children did. Don died an early death, unfortunately, when he was only 60 years old. But one morning at an IFA convention, he came down early for breakfast and he said to me, here's what we're going to do. These service men and women are going to come back from the Gulf. They're not going to have jobs, and franchising is the way for them to go. And we're going to get a group of franchisors together and we're going to give them benefits. We're going to give people who are honorably discharged, we're going to get them involved in our brands, whatever they might be. All kinds of different brands were included at the time. And that's how VetFran got off the ground, the Veterans Transition Franchise Initiative, which provides these benefits. Still going strong today. After Don's death, his daughter, Dina Dwyer Owens, became president of the company, of the Dwyer Group, based in Waco, Texas, and then became chairwoman of the International Franchise Association, and they promote VetFran. I think at franchise.org, I'm sure there's information on the IFA website about VetFran. So I'm glad you took advantage of that, Victor. It helps. But let's go back to, you didn't really like franchising. You're entrepreneurial. People who are entrepreneurial like to make their own mistakes. They don't want to follow someone else's plan. At the same time, you were very successful in the Air Force. So you did march to somebody else's drumbeat. You did follow the Air Force playbook. Did you like that?
I did. I found that when you have a good plan that's well executed, it's a lot easier to follow. The team that I was on in the Air Force was fast and really efficient with what we were doing. So I found it a lot easier to follow that plan because I thought it was a good one. It's just being discerning what planning you're going to follow. And
Sure.
When you're going into business with a franchisor, you have a lot of options and a lot of different business plans that you can review for all these franchisors. So just finding a plan that makes sense to you, that's written out well, and that you can see is well executed by the franchisees around the country is really what makes the difference.
Important points that you're making. We have some 4,000, maybe more than 4,000 opportunities in franchising, each with their own plan. And some of them, frankly, aren't any good, and you should not invest in them. People don't always tell you that up front, particularly the franchisor who wants to sell franchises and maybe is still working out the kinks in their plan. But you were able to find one where you liked the plan. You knew it was a good plan. How did you verify that it was a good plan?
You can see it in the numbers with what these franchisees are able to bring in with their revenue. You can see what they're spending, and any franchisor should be sharing that information with their prospects. So just ask for that information. If you see that they've got a good looking business plan, verify that just with the financials.
So you're talking about item 19 of the franchise disclosure document, where franchisors can legally make what we would refer to as an earnings claim. That if you invest $150,000, $500,000 in my business, here's what you can expect to earn over a period of time. Here's how you can expect your business to perform over a period of time. But even that information is not always reliable, or it's confusing, or they're putting numbers in there that are legit but not practical in some cases. Did you do anything else to verify that these numbers really are true and that franchisees enjoyed operating the business?
I called a few of them. I called a few franchise owners in my region and just asked them how business was going, what their struggles were starting out, what they're able to bring in and pay themselves. And they were very upfront about all of it with me, thankfully. I still keep in touch with some of them to this day.
Yes, like the armed services, the franchisees become lifelong friends and advocates for one another. It's one of the great strengths of franchising, that you're not in it all by yourself. Ray Kroc told us that from McDonald's, that you're in business for yourself, but you're not alone in this. You're not doing it on your own. You've got a franchisor that provides information and training and support. And you've got, perhaps more importantly, other franchisees who have learned how to do things well, sometimes better than the franchisor can do. And they share that information with new franchisees like you. So once you knew the plan, you didn't necessarily get comfortable with franchising, but you got comfortable with the Ace brand. You like that. Do you think if it had not been a well-known, nationally known brand, you might have said, no, I'm going to pass on this. I don't think this will work for me?
That's exactly right. I would have passed. Branding is so important in a business. And when I think about what we do in commercial and residential repair and maintenance, I feel like I can do everything as a business owner, but building a brand is so hard. And it takes a long time. So being able to buy that brand that has 100 years under its belt and a really good reputation across the country just was a huge game changer for me. So just being able to own the Ace brand without having to put in all the sweat, blood, and tears to build that brand, it just felt like a no-brainer to me.
So you have an MBA in global leadership from the University of New Mexico. And do you think that prepared you to understand the importance of a brand and branding? Did you already come to franchising with that awareness and knowledge? And if so, how important was that?
The branding was just common sense from being a consumer for 30 plus years. In America, we just see brands and advertisements all day, every day. So brand recognition is kind of second nature to us, I feel. And the MBA just reinforced that. But I actually didn't get my MBA until after I had started my business. I did them both at the same time, which I don't recommend for everybody.
And how do you know, what proof do you have that that Ace brand has benefited you? That it could have been Mr. Repairman or Repair 123, not a household name. How do you know that the Ace brand has benefited you as a franchisee?
When I get people calling and asking if we're affiliated with Ace Hardware in just a curious way and a hopeful way, it tells me that they're excited that Ace Hardware now has this service. And I think we've found that selling to existing customers is just so much easier, and you'll be more successful than if you were to just land new customers every day.
So when you say selling existing
Ace customers, they're happy to buy from us because we're part of Ace that they trust, and the same high standard of service that you'd find in one of their hardware stores is offered to their door.
And yet, that's not always the case, because the operator of the hardware store might be an outstanding operator. The operator of the handyman business might not be outstanding. How does Ace, or how do franchisees make sure that we're going to live up to the Ace brand name, value?
Well, I'm hoping that the franchisors do their due diligence on who's looking to buy in to their brand, and they're vetting people well with similar values and ethics that are going to uphold that standard. And it's really up to the prospective franchisee to make that connection as well and just see if the values of the company line up with their own.
So being a veteran of the Air Force, your day-to-day life in the Air Force, how many years were you in?
I did 6 years from 2014 to 2020.
And during that time, you took orders. Did you like taking orders?
No, I did not.
Why'd you do it?
Because I knew it had to be done. And I also had orders to give. And so it's just a continuous cycle. It's just how it is in the military. You know that the orders are coming. You get ready for it, you receive it, and then you go and execute. So I found some comfort in that after a while. I knew that it was part of a bigger mission, that I had to do my part, even though sometimes it didn't make sense to me. There were parts that I couldn't see that were dependent on what I was doing.
Were you able to cut corners in the Air Force You didn't want to do it that way or that long, or could you do it your way?
No, everything's got a template. Everything has a process that needs to be followed. There were opportunities and different times where we could innovate a little bit and rig things to work fast when we needed to. And sometimes we did that. Sometimes we had to innovate just to get something done quickly. And it wasn't necessarily by the book, but when it was time for results, our leadership didn't care. They just wanted it done in a way that was going to work.
Now, if you got negative results, I guess they would have cared, and you probably would have been blamed for that.
That's the risk. Yeah.
So in franchising, have you found there are templates? There are ways to do it. You might not like every way. You might not like the orders or the directions that they give you. There's only so much control that a franchisor can impose. The biggest penalty in franchising is the franchisee loses money. You invest, you go do your own advertising. It's not the way the franchisor suggested. You don't even tell the franchisor about it. You go and invest $20,000 in some advertising campaign. You lose the $20,000. Now you can't pay your mortgage the next month. That's not the franchisor's fault. Franchisor doesn't have that much control. But in the Air Force, you live together, you work together. It's much more intense than in franchising. Is that true for you?
Yeah, in the military, it's literally life and death situations every day. In business, it's employment versus unemployment and getting rich versus going broke.
Yeah.
So there's stakes there, but they're definitely not as high.
Don Dwyer used to say, we want service people in our franchise businesses because, first of all, they know how to get up in the morning and they make their bed and they follow a routine. And they may not always like it, but they do it because they know they need to follow the routine to become successful. Those are exactly the kind of people who make great franchisees. And I've been at this for a long, long time, started in franchising in 1979, and I have been blessed to meet many, many people who spent time in the Army or the Air Force or the Marines and have come out and gone to work in a franchise business as the owner of the business, building not just one unit, but multiple units. And these are when you talk to folks like you, they will say, it's the discipline of what I learned that mattered to me and carried forward. So I'm assuming you continue these practices today, that you like the discipline.
I do. It's the not quitting that's the most important thing, and understanding that a little bit of failure is okay, but quitting's not. So in the long term, you keep getting up every day, you keep showing up, you say what you're going to do, and then you do it. That builds trust. You're going to trust yourself more, and you will be successful if you just don't quit and do that.
How long have you been a franchisee?
2 years.
And during that time, let's say in the first 90 days, first 6 months, did you ever say, I might have made a mistake?
Maybe the first day. I was probably laying in bed at night just looking up at the ceiling like, what did I just sign up for? It was kind of familiar for like that first day of boot camp when I was laying in the dorm just thinking, what did I just sign my life up to? And I think with any big jump, you're going to have that. I feel like if that's not there, then it's not exciting. That's part of the draw for me, is just a little bit of risk.
So then how soon was it before you got comfortable and said, I know this was a good decision for me?
When I started paying myself, when I started seeing the cash come in.
And how long did that take? How long until you were cash flowing, giving yourself a paycheck at the end of a week or the end of a month? And have you earned your money back already in this period of time?
We're profitable. We made our initial investment back in 3 months. I was reluctant to pay myself for the first year, so I didn't. I just decided to keep my money in the business. In hindsight, I probably could have paid myself after the first 3 months, but I'm definitely milking the cow now.
What was the most difficult part of getting started, those first 6 to 9 months until I think you earned your money back in 3 months. So talk about that. What do you wish you had done more of, less of, and maybe you would have earned your money back in 2 months? Not that, that would have been a big deal, because getting your money back in 3 months is spectacular.
I think if I would have done more networking face-to-face with people prior to opening up and just finding the right networks of people to connect with so that when we opened our doors, the phone was already ringing. We already had jobs scheduled. I would look at real estate associations and things like that. People that have multiple properties under their belt are great customers to have. So in hindsight, I would have probably done more of that.
And did the franchisor teach you how to do that networking, or is that an area that you have to learn on your own?
They had some ideas about it. They recommended different networking groups and things like that, like BNI.
Another franchise.
Yeah, another franchise.
Yeah.
Kind of
National
a
Lead
cult.
Exchange, NLX is another franchise in that same mix. Yeah, good. Then, so you get your money back in a really relatively short period of time. You're feeling confident as an operator. One of the things that we all experience as homeowners, if anything goes wrong, that we need a handyman. It's one of the worst feelings for a homeowner today because, number one, you don't know who to call. And number two, you figure you're going to make about 5 calls until someone even answers the phone, let alone shows up. It's a horrible feeling and it's a horrible situation to be in, but this is pretty much across the country. Getting people to work and being able to trust them, these are big challenges that we shouldn't have to face. And I think maybe that's part of what Ace is relieving people of that pressure. But you don't know that when you're a homeowner. How much of that do you get from your customers that they're just grateful that you showed up and could be trusted to take care of the problem?
We get a lot of that from our customers. They're happy that we answer the phone, usually on the first ring. We got them scheduled in a timely manner, and then we show up on time and do the project as planned. And for me, the markings of a successful project is the scope. Did we do what we said we were going to do? The schedule, did we do it on time? And the cost, did we get it done for the price we planned or even lower? If I can say yes to all three, that's a successful project and probably a repeat customer. When I moved back to Albuquerque, we found that our property that we rented out while we were overseas was just trashed. And so we decided to remodel it ourselves and then put it on the market because it was a good time for us to sell. We moved into our new home, and trying to find good, reliable people to come and do some work with us was damn near impossible. So that kind of put the problem in my mind. And I think any good business is designed to solve a problem. So when I met with Ace Handyman and they had a clear solution to the problem that I identified, I felt like it was a good match and something that I could sell.
So you had technical skills already. You knew how to be a handyman before you became a franchisee?
I'm pretty capable. I know how to do things. I'm a quick learner and a lifelong student, I would say. I'd never been a handyman before. A little bit about my background in the Air Force. I signed up to do special operations. I failed out of that, and then I ended up getting reclassed into engineering. And what that is just a whole lot of random construction stuff. And I started out doing drafting and survey, doing layouts and base planning and things like that. And then when I promoted, I got assigned a position as a construction manager. So I spent all day, every day working with different contractors overseas in Korea and Germany and just seeing how they would do these projects. And it got my interest. So I learned a lot over there.
How much of your time as a franchisee is spent making repairs in people's homes?
0% anymore.
Wonderful. So you're not a technician. And this is one of the issues that we face in business development. We've got people who can build a business more entrepreneurial, and we have the technician, and the technician being the person who loves being a plumber and will be a plumber the rest of their life. And there's nothing wrong with that. But those folks don't scale businesses. You've got to be an owner, operator, a visionary, a bit entrepreneurial, and limit the amount of time that you spend on a truck going out to make repairs. So talk about that experience in your career. How much time did you spend on the truck, so to speak, as a technician? And when did you and how did you know to get off the truck and build the business?
I'll go back a little bit to when you asked me what some of the initial challenges were. One of the initial challenges was finding a great crew that's going to deliver on these jobs for us. So I had a few people quit or fail, drop out midway through a job. in my first quarter, and I was in a position where I had to get these things done. We had to get the money in. And so I would go out there and finish the job on top of running my business. So I was working 12, 14-hour days sometimes. And early on, that was pretty tough. That probably had me questioning whether or not I could do it. Can I find some good guys? Can I build a great team that's going to deliver? So that was a really challenging time. I never planned to be on the truck as the owner. I'm a licensed general contractor and I'm a team leader. So I need to have kind of an eagle eye view over the whole thing, not necessarily being in the project, but seeing the project and not working in my business, but working on my business.
Good point. Does the franchisor endorse that philosophy that they don't want their franchisees out fixing things in people's homes? They want them building the business?
Absolutely. They do not want their franchisees turning wrenches or doing demos and stuff like that. And I know sometimes we go rogue. I like the work. I like to get out there and get my hands dirty a little bit and keep my skills sharp. But I'm usually saving that for the weekend at my house.
Mm-hmm. Franchisors recognize that they are looking for marketers, leaders. These are people who can envision what a business can do and how to build the business, to scale the business over a period of time. And unfortunately, technicians generally are not those kinds of folks. So having a background in marketing, which I think you have a background in leadership and you have a background in engineering, general contracting, psychology as well. I think it was your bachelor's degree. Would marketing help you? Is it essential, or do you pick that up some other way as a franchisee?
Marketing is crucial. It's not something you can skip. I didn't learn it in school though, unfortunately. I think marketing is continuously evolving in such a way that when that school book comes out, it's already years out of date. So YouTube University for your marketing, ChatGPT is where you need to be looking if you're looking to learn about marketing.
How much of marketing is taught by your franchisor?
We've got some experts, and I'm usually seeking them out. They're not giving, well, back up. We've got some experts in marketing in our corporate office that is always available. And they also put out good information on best practices and things like that, resources for us to use. And they have a whole bank of images and logos and stuff like that we can play with. And they do a little bit for us, but they make it possible for us to do our own local marketing, to put our own twist on it, I guess.
Do they encourage you to hire maybe a marketing student from a local university or a young agency that's getting started, or an old agency that wants to take on your account and relieve you of the time to do the marketing?
Yeah, we have some connections there with SEO companies, as they're called, search engine optimization, and they can get your website more visible and kind of track all the clicks that you're getting. So they do encourage that you're doing paid search. As far as hiring students and things like that, I think it's a great idea. My franchisor doesn't really push us one direction or another, but they put the resources out there. But I think hiring students is a great thing to do, especially marketing students. I had a few that I was working with that were doing a school project for their bachelor's program in marketing, and we talked about our marketing plan, and they're going to come up with some more plans that we might be able to put into practice. Mm-hmm. If it's good, I might offer a couple of them a summer job. We'll see how it goes.
Well, that works really well. And where I teach at Palm Beach Atlantic University in West Palm Beach, Florida, we not only have a marketing program, we have a franchise concentration. So my students get hired by people like you and by franchisors because they know not just marketing, they also know franchising. And that has been a great benefit. We're one of the few places in the world where students in college can learn about franchising. Generally, they know nothing about franchising, or they have a negative view of franchising when they come to the university. But if you want to leverage your degree, marketing, management, accounting, international business, leadership, psychology, get a concentration in franchising because the jobs are out there. And first, and franchisees like you need those services and can't find them. You can hardly hire someone out of college who knows anything about franchising, including the FDD and franchisor relationships. So I think Ace may look into that further about how do you cultivate those relationships with franchisees. I'm also interested in the values, Air Force values, that are also values in franchising. Which ones line up? And maybe some that don't line up.
So the military values that I hold on to pretty tightly is just the trust for my wingman, having their back in whatever the situation is, and just the pursuit of excellence. And for us, that is not just being here to do the work, but being the best at it, and kind of like an attitude of dominance in the market. We want to crush our competitors here.
One of the things that's really important in franchising is training. You expect the franchisor to train you how to be a successful business operator from A to Z. And where could Ace have done a better job, in your estimation, of providing training to you?
I don't really know how it could be better, but some things that I wish I knew more was just structuring the business and making a plan for an exit, to where if I was going to sell my territory, what's the best way to do that? What's the best way for me to set myself up to do that? And how should I be structuring my business to make that process a little bit smoother?
How did you verify that the support would be what you needed? That the franchisor, actually, not all franchisors provide great support to franchisees. This is important for a prospective franchisee before you go and invest your money, to know I'm going to get the training and support I need. Not just because the franchisor said so, because of course the franchisor is going to say so. So how did you protect yourself, if you did?
That was one of my main questions when I was on the call with other franchisees, is just asking them what the support was that they're getting from the franchisor, if they're helpful, if they answer the call when we need them to. And all across the board, they said that the team was good. And actually getting to talk to the team myself, just asking them tons of questions and kind of verifying that they are experts in their field was important to me. So I would highly recommend that if you're looking at a franchisor, you call other franchisees and ask them what kind of support they're getting from their support team.
Victor, when you started out, was your idea, your plan, just to have one unit of your franchise in Albuquerque? Were you going to be a one-unit operator?
No, I was looking a little bit bigger than just having the one area. So I found my favorite area, and I kind of looked at different ways to expand on that prior to even starting.
So you're not a one-unit operator now. I believe you have areas. Is that right?
Right. We have Albuquerque and Santa Fe.
And what's the distance between Albuquerque and Santa Fe?
It's about an hour drive.
Yeah. So how do you know where to spend your time? And if you live in Albuquerque, much easier to spend time in Albuquerque. How often do you have to go to Santa Fe? How time consuming is that? Driving an hour over, an hour back? Is that a good investment of your time? How'd you know that was going to work out?
I knew it was going to work out because we were getting the calls from Santa Fe, even when we weren't marketing out there. We had people calling us, just kind of hopeful that we'd go out to them and take care of their homes and businesses. So we knew that the work was there for us to do if we wanted it. And, I decided that I did want that. As far as spending my time, I try to get there at least once a week. I'll usually wait until I have a few things to do in Santa Fe and then just block off a full day for that.
And how long was it you became a franchisee, you got your investment back from Albuquerque within 90 days? Is that when you decided, well, let's open Santa Fe as well? And how did that work?
I already had my eye on it when we were opening. I knew that Santa Fe had a good demographic of people that fit our customer profile, and it's relatively small, so we were able to get it for a lower price.
And how critical was it to add Santa Fe? Did that add 20% to your gross revenue or more or less? How did that work out?
It's still early with Santa Fe. I think we're at maybe 10% right now. So kind of a soft opening, I guess. But we're taking advantage of the resources that we have in Albuquerque and just using those same resources to go a little bit further for our clients.
And what's your ultimate goal? Are you going to stop with Albuquerque and Santa Fe, or could you own the whole state?
We could own the whole state. There's also territory in other states that I'm looking at, like Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, trying to find some good areas to work in there.
Good for you. All right. Well, I think we've covered the territory, at least in terms of franchising and the pros and cons. You did a great job of answering those questions.
Thanks. Yeah, those were some good questions.
Thanks for tuning in to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast with Dr. John P. Hayes. Tune in next time for more conversation around all things franchising.